Union podcast, baby.
Sorry, it's words, but it sounds like noise.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Jason said I make a weird noise at the start of the podcast. That's just the intro. That's how the intro goes. Hey, this is a Melbourne creative podcast. Bunch of creatives drinking beers, having a chat about being artsy boys.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. It's much needed, I think, to uplift the community.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on, guys.
No
We're
worries.
joined by Antonio. How are you?
What's this muppet that's happening?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling skittish today. I'm feeling skittish and anxious. Can't explain it.
Yeah, I had to take the day off work before I came in. I used it as an excuse to myself, best prepare, get a nice sleep, come in and do the podcast. So
Appreciate the
any
commitment.
excuse will do.
I fell asleep on the train on the way here.
Oh, really?
Different levels of nerves, I guess.
I was reading a book and I was just like, I haven't read for a while because I haven't. And reading makes me tired if I haven't done it for a while. So
What are you reading?
a book about...
Right.
I can't remember what it's called. It's good.
It put you to sleep, so it did.
Okay, great.
The lawyer has to defend a prominent dominatrix in Edinburgh.
Okay,
After someone higher up in the police force got murdered outside a gay haunt.
This sounds awesome.
Yes, I'm only
Sounds
35 books into the.
Yeah,
but
cool.
the guy that they were talking about one guy. He went to this dominatrix and he wanted one of his testicles filled up with water. So
Jesus
the
Christ,
size
okay.
of a football. Anyway, before we get started,
I did have a mate who did have testicles that were almost the sizes of a football. And I know that my boys will be listening to this later on. So big shout out, you know who I'm talking about.
shout out Testy Tim. All right.
They were good. To this day, I still remember the first time I seen it, and it still haunts me. And yeah, really good times.
Was there anything wrong with them, or they're just that size?
Oh, they were. I don't want to get too much into it, but they were that size, and they were that size for a while. And they were to
sounds
the
like a
point where he
nightmare.
couldn't wear slacks, so he wasn't having the best time. You know what I mean?
All right.
And on that note,
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll make it to the pod, but good being
Everything
here.
stays in.
I know.
Everything stays in,
I've
sweet.
never edited this podcast.
All right. Before we get
We'll see how we
started,
go.
we'd just like to acknowledge the true custodians of this land, the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. It's very important to understand that we are conducting ourselves on stolen land, land that's been looked after and cared for by First Nations people for tens of thousands of years. And we are lucky to be here, and we are very much visitors on this land. I want to also acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and Australia is probably one of the only countries, Commonwealth countries, that haven't signed a treaty with their Indigenous people, which is not great. But yeah, I also just wanted to say that we're very lucky to come here and share our stories and talk on a podcast and stuff every 2 weeks, where so many First Nations people's voices have been silenced throughout history and continue to be silenced to this present day. And I also just want to acknowledge the Palawa people of Lutruwita, which is the First Nations people of Tasmania, where I unfortunately grew up. So let's move on.
Alrighty. First of all, our guest today, Antonio. You've entered into the poetry scene, perhaps in the opposite direction, opposite way that we've done it. I reckon. Do you just want to explain how you got into the poetry scene first?
The way I got in was I'd been writing for ages. Like when I was younger, I was in a hip hop group. Did a bit of stuff, especially around Brunswick Street. So coming here is always fun.
Yeah.
And kind of just grew out of it. I can imagine you guys knowing what I'm talking about. There's a lot of egos, and when you're in a three-man...
I've never once encountered that.
When you're in a three-man crew and you're in your early 20s, you tend to butt heads and have a lot of differences that come through with maturing and aging and stuff like that. So the crew actually eventually broke up. Joined the Navy, spent 8 years doing that, left the Defence Force, came out, and I was writing for ages and really wanting to get into spoken word and the performative side of writing just to see what it would be like. I imagined it would be fun. Mm-hmm. But the thing that held me back was the idea of poetry being like for elitists or for like super educated people.
Yeah.
I imagine that's what the scene would be like, a bunch of people sitting around really critiquing it.
Right.
So it took me a while,
There's elements of that somewhere.
That doesn't completely not happen.
Yeah.
That's a terrible way for me to say that. It still happens in some places. There we go.
Well, I've been super blessed that I haven't experienced it, and I think it's because of people like yourselves who run open mics that are so welcoming and such safe environments where people can feel like, even if they're new to anything, just feel like they can get up and read. And so big bless. Thank you guys.
Please. Yeah.
We're very good at taking compliments, if you haven't noticed. So,
I'm very good at giving them.
I've been told so many times I can't do it.
But yeah, that's actually interesting. The concept, you want to do spoken word and poetry, but the thought around it was the perception of it. There's the word I was looking for. Is just very elitist and very, which is not something I thought of when I started. It was I didn't know what I was doing and wanting. I got annoyed at it because everyone was talking about trauma all the time, and I'm like, well, and everyone's like, what do you think poetry is? I'm like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And that's basically what I do now. So I've reverted. You become the thing you hate. No. No, I'm joking. Please come to poetry.
And unload your trauma here. That is what it's for.
It's just
but in saying that, like, for me, it was projecting insecurities onto a scene that I knew nothing about. I was just like,
right, okay.
I felt insecure about stuff, so I just assumed that that's what it was, and it really like stopped me from having fun. Because since I've been doing it, like I've been doing open mics now for about a year. And since I've been doing it, it's just been heaps of fun. I've gotten to meet some really cool people, had some really good experiences. I had one bad experience that you kind of brought up in the last podcast, and then you referred to me like you'd referred to Voldemort. You were like, he who should not be named. I listened to this podcast. I'm like, dude, that's me. What are you doing?
I don't know. I was like,
you can name drop local poets.
You can just
I don't know. I
name and shame him, man.
Antonio fucked up bad. No, I don't know. I just felt like I felt kind of. I was using it as an example. I was using it as an example, not talking about it specifically. So I was like, I'll sidestep.
I think that's a good. I do the same thing. Actually, it is a good call. You don't know. I'm glad to have it clarified in this particular case.
I was wondering. I was like, oh, he's going to listen to this.
If you say someone went on stage and absolutely fucking killed it, and everyone and the whole crowd got on their fucking feet, was like, holy shit! Stop poetry. We've done it. Poetry's done now because we
completed.
We just
poetry.
peaked. Thank God, humanity's.
But also, I would say the first time Antonio ever did Slammer, I was the one time that I think Lane and I didn't go. He won it.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why.
I'm just fucking jealous.
Oh, I'm totally jealous. I would have won it.
There is a lot of critique and there is a lot of ego in the poetry scene. It's mostly sitting just across from me here.
How dare you? But it's also true. I think there is ego in. I've seen some ego in poetry, especially in some competitions. But also, in the open mic stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Beer and podcast. We always hear that. I think there's ego with people. I think we've mentioned some of the gatekeeping and not just sort of like we've had people come here and they're like, oh, it's weird. Where's the whiteboard that we need to sign up at? I'm like, well, we've got 19 already online that we've done. Like,
I hate the look of a whiteboard as well. I just can't stand a bloody whiteboard. Chalkboard's better, but still, it drives me nuts. It's just not.
But I think that was one thing that we always did differently.
Yeah.
No, we did it. I can't even remember how we did it when we first started.
No idea.
Yeah, I
wasn't there.
Surely you were.
I feel like I wasn't there for the first one.
I remember my old notebook. It was just like 5 names scribbled. It was all just Vibe Union people.
Yeah.
Because it was and then like maybe one. I don't even remember. Because I'd have to get to the venue, and then I would like, can I see the screen? So I wrote all the names down. And that kind of, it was this whole...
That rings a bell.
Yeah, it was this whole... And then we just moved it into what it is now. Yeah, definitely a different type of signing. I don't know.
Are reasons like that the reason why you guys wanted to start your own night? Because I was talking to you before we got on here, like, it just seems like there's so many elements to what can happen when you're running an event, or like you guys do multiple events, that just seems stressful. So,
Yeah.
you know,
No, it is stressful.
Yep. No further information. Just yes.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
is stressful.
that's what you need.
Well, I mean, like the night start is because Blue Bar, they asked Vibe Union to, like, for some reason, because the person that owns it, he should not be named. No. He was randomly asking, like, I love poetry. Do you want to put on a poetry night?
Yeah, he had a history in it, I think.
You know more about a little bit more than that, because I just remember getting a phone call and they're like, yeah, we have one of the people that we know is a poet and he's done some stuff. He can MC, so I got a phone call.
Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
I think like a lot of people who are more seasoned in the hip hop scene usually have some sort of love for poetry. And so I think it was just that. It was just like, oh, that'd be a cool thing to do. That would be a kind of like a more underground cultural thing to do. And then there's the bigger nights where it's just debauchery.
Yeah, because we were on we started on the Tuesday and they were closed on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just looking for something else on a different day just to open up a little bit. And
that was something. Yeah, the reason we started definitely was just because we got asked to do it.
Oh, right.
That being said, I think the reason because that was like 2.5 years ago now, or something.
We've been here for a year and a bit now.
Yeah.
So, so we started two and a so years ago. Yeah.
I think there's one reason that is I think I'm just anxious going out to other things, and so it's actually easier for me, though it is stressful, it's actually easier for me to just put on an event rather than insert myself into a scene that already exists, because I'm like,
you were complete hands off when the poetry started.
Yeah.
You had nothing to do with it.
That's kind of Vibe Union in general, I feel
that
like.
was about him when there was more people.
We just enjoy running events.
Yeah.
But you guys started off as MCs, you were saying. So you guys started off rapping. So were you guys rapping?
No, we were
before?
the opposite.
We were opposite, yeah.
Oh, we were the opposite to each other. Yeah.
I started off rapping.
Yeah.
That's right.
Your life is not us. Yes.
Yeah.
Drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, we started off as poets. Well, I went into it more like from like folk scene and stuff like that, and then into poetry.
Yeah, to me that's crazy because, like, you know, growing up, like the idea of what poetry is, like even when I was younger, obviously attracted to the written word, it was like hip hop is accessible to, like, you know, the younger dude growing up. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you make something that seems like an elitist type of way of being artsy with words accessible to youthful, like, blokes? It was like being a rapper. So it never really suited me, like the rapping thing, but like that's just what appealed to a young kid, I guess.
When you were did you feel kind of like you had a bit of a kind of a cocky way of holding yourself when you were younger?
No, I think it came later. Like, I think like I adopted certain characteristics of like the hip hop scene, but the first initial thing that drew it to me was wanting to write poems.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? Okay.
Because I think I wanted to be a rapper when I was like in high school, or rather just like I was doing band stuff. I wanted to be in bands more so, but there was a couple of songs that were like, oh, we want to cover a song by Rage Against the Machine or the Beastie Boys or something like that, and it was like, oh, who's going to do the rap? And I'm like, oh, I'd love to. And like, oh, shut the fuck up, mate. You're not going to do the fucking rap. Calm down. And so someone else would do it, and I just didn't. So I didn't start until I was like 25 or something like that, maybe. Maybe a little bit younger. It doesn't really matter. But to be a rapper always seemed like totally unattainable, because like, oh, I'm just a weedy dweeb who fucking writes little folk songs, and so that the idea of being a rapper just like, I'm not hard enough.
Yeah,
I'm not fucking hard enough.
That's so funny because like, I was always like, I'm not like educated enough to do poetry, so I'll do hip hop where I can kind of like get away with it by putting on beats and sit around a cypher, especially because a lot of my mates growing up were like good graffiti writers or good skaters and stuff like that, and I couldn't do any of it. And just hanging out, like, you'd cypher. You'd sit around in the circle, you know, and throw bullshit around, and I was kind of okay at that, you know.
I guess there has to be a place where you see poetry as an accessible format, and when I guess when my first encounter, when I did actually go out to poetry nights, First thing I noticed. Like, I always get wary when I say this statement, but I think it holds some truth. You go to things like that. You go to comedy nights or poetry nights, or you just go and see some bands or what have you. And to see amazing stuff is super inspiring. Really, really cool. And then to see bad stuff is also really inspiring because you go, oh, I can do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
I think the thing that made me go, oh, I could do that was I was like super lucky. The thing that got me to actually first do anything on a mic was Joel Listics from TZU did hip hop workshops. And I rocked up to one of those and Joel was like, oh, you should go down to the Evelyn because Alf Transporter ran a hip hop night called Fat Logic way back in the day.
Yeah, right.
And I was underage and going to that and just seeing how they did it. And they weren't doing the, that typical stuff. They were being like politically conscious, talking about what Melbourne was at the time, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow, that is what I want to do. Like, I want to be like in that sort of environment using hip hop to tell those sorts of stories.
Yeah.
And seeing those kinds of MCs when I was young made me go, yeah, that's what I want to do, man. Like,
because I think no, it's sort of about the hip hop stuff. So yeah, I didn't think I'd ever want to do it, and then I said I joined the Vibe Uni, and then they're like, do you want to do a cipher or something? I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. And I'll do it then. And so I had paper down there. I'm like, looks like I'm doing it, and I fucked up a few times. Like, oh no, we can edit it to make it sound better. I'm like, what is this witchcraft? Like all this stuff. I mean, sorry, it was all done perfectly, one take. If you watch it, it's on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah.
Still.
I did a cipher with Mash and Rhath.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. And
we can rap better now.
I realised I was way out of my element, but yeah, what talking about like the political stuff? I started listening to I started listening to like Atmosphere, Brother Ali, and it was Sarok, and a few others, and I was like, oh, this is it's more of a story, it's less aggressive stuff, it's cool stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is more what I like, and so that's why I've sort of changed. See, I mean, my EP that I have is a bit different because it was like in the times of there's more political stuff, but now I just sort of change it up to be a bit more, I don't know, not storytelling, but it's just taking the harshness off it and just sort of
softening the edges.
Yeah, sort of thing. So you don't a little bit, but you don't have to. Yeah, so it's not the not the mainstream. It doesn't really matter, but like.
I have. Did you, when you first started writing hip hop, were you trying to say anything in particular, or so the politics came later?
When I first started, I think I was just trying to storytell.
Okay.
And then like I said, seeing that side of hip hop, I was like, oh, okay, it can be bigger, and it doesn't have to be like the American style of what they're going through. Like politics here are important and. Telling our stories where we're from, but from that perspective, not necessarily like, that rough and tumble stuff that I first started listening to when I first started listening to Aussie hip hop, which I freaking love, like the Lyrical Commission kind of stuff, which is to me still the best Australian hip hop group ever. Yeah. But that sort of stuff was more me. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can't fake the funk, you can't just talk about you can't talk about other people's stories. You got to do you. Yeah. And what they were doing was more in line
it's
with
the
what
biggest
I was
faux
doing.
pas in Australian rap, not just Australian rap, just international rap that isn't America, because everyone has to, because it birthed in America, so when you copy it, easy to try and sound like an American, which, especially if you have an Australian twang accent, does not sound good.
Tell me about it.
I mean, Iggy Azalea's done it perfectly, so it's fine.
Not culturally appropriating at all.
No, not at all.
Vibe Union supports Iggy Azalea.
Come at me, Iggy. Sue me.
I'd love to get sued by someone like that. It'd be such good publicity.
It's like, take the zero that we have.
Yeah. But,
actually, no, it would be. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
So my thought is that I think when this isn't for all, so you can write really conscious, not just hip hop, this is more just like music in general. You can write really conscious lyrics, and maybe a good example is classically just like go for like Bob Dylan or something like that. You could take any Bob Dylan songs and just speak it, and it would probably work.
I mean,
but you can also just like riff through a song and muse on kind of an idea and world build a little bit, but you don't need to say anything in particular. If it sounds good, you can kind of like if it's aesthetically pleasing, you have a good song. But if you have a poem that is just you're just kind of riffing and you're not really saying anything particular with high clarity, it can be a bit hard for the audience to be like, what is this?
I mean, that's why Bob Dylan's it's great to hear his covers because his shit's just so universally true. And I think that's why, it just rings truth. And I think, it comes from that organic honesty, that's super important in any creative field,
Yeah. But it can be daunting when you move into poetry to do that, where you can't hide behind. Okay, I've got nothing else to say. I'm gonna do a little turnaround and like a solo for 2 minutes, and then we out. Like you're up there with a microphone, or you're on the page, and you have to. You don't have to say something because that's going to sound like I am being gatekeepering, and like poetry has to really mean something. You can riff about fucking whatever you want, but there's nothing to hide. You can't hide behind anything. You've just got your words right there. And if to go with hip hop, something like more ad-lib based trap, where it's just like they say a couple of good one-liners, but for the most part it's just pure vibes. They're just adding vocals to get an aesthetic across. Which you can't take that and then do it as spoken word.
It's something I can't, my brain just doesn't compute with that. Just going, I can just I'm not saying that my lyrics are up there with the best of them at all. But I'm like, if I'm hearing a bit, I'm like, I can't just go. Like, hearing the freestyles or the others, I'm like, I can't. My brain just doesn't compute with just it's a good beat. Let's let the beat take most of the brunt of the enjoyment. I'm like, no, I'm gonna beat you over the head with my lyrics.
Yeah. You have a strong theme and kind of point to your songs when you come across, right?
Yeah. Mostly. Sometimes it's just gibberish and like, what the fuck did I mean by that? Don't know. It sounds good. I knew what I meant at the time, and then.
I think that's the thing. I think I was actually quite surprised because I didn't grow up on hip hop. I grew up on more psychedelic and folk and stuff like that. Yeah. I felt like that stuff was more. This song is about this. This song is about this. This song is about this. And then you encounter hip hop verses that are like, this bar is about this. This bar is about this. This bar is about this. And it's just like changing topics and going free flowing. And it's more about like it's more like taking a guitar solo at times. It's more like playing like a jazz solo over top of a beat, but lyrically.
I think one. Sorry, I think one of the talking about like changing up is one good bit is Run the Jewels, because you have Killer Mike come in and he's doing more of the political stuff, and then LP comes in and just annoyingly is perfect, but he's still talking about shit, but like Killer Mike is the one that's more of a pointed going like here's these politicians, they're shit, here's all this stuff like there, and then LP is kind of a bit more esoteric stuff talking about it.
We do push-ups nude on the edge of cliffs.
Yeah,
it's my favorite LP line of all time.
And then it's like and it's sort of like it's going back and forth, and then that kind of thing. I think that's if it works, if you can do it properly, it works amazingly, but it's tough. So.
Yeah, I think sometimes like one thing that can happen with like both poetry and like hip hop like verses is, and this is not necessarily trying to say that there's a problem with it, because words are important, we're not denying that, but sometimes people get fixated on do you get it? Like you drop a bar and you want the audience to understand what you're getting, so you point at it. And sometimes it's good just to let your words resonate with people and let them make it mean something to them, instead of like kind of just saying like, this is what I'm saying, so you have to understand it the way I wrote it. Where one thing I feel like poetry does more so than the ego that surrounds hip hop sometimes is it lets the audience interpret for what they want to, and it lets it breathe more, and that's what attracts me more to the poetry side, or like especially with the type of stuff that I like to write. Right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I do love that idea of it's kind of similar to what I was saying, but I think more in a positive spin on it. But I really love the putting stuff into your work, putting stuff into your lyrics or the words on the page, what have you, that aren't obvious what the fuck you're saying when you're not trying, but you are putting these little hints and putting these little. I use the term world building all the time with my stuff. It's just like there'll be a couple of bars that like I know what the fuck those are, but to other people they'll be like, I don't know what was said, but the way it was said got my brain ticking. And so hearing what other people interpret from those is the most exciting.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's like, you got to stop thinking about, stop going, well, this is, do I need to repeat this line again? So you actually, I can look at you and get the response that I'm looking for, that kind of thing. And I think, I'm the same though. I listen to stuff and I'm like, I've felt something, even through poetry, it's like slammer and stuff. I'm like, I can't resonate with a lot of this, but I can feel what you're saying, and it's still affected me in some way. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Because we keep alluding to political content as well in all this. I've really gravitated towards political music and political poetry and what have you. And have put a lot of politics into my work, but I really hate, in general, political music. My issue is for a lot of the time, not all the time, and I think Run the Jewels is great at it. I really like JPEG Mafia's way of tackling it. I mean, there's endless rappers who are obviously masters of political content. My go-to example is more like kind of American dad rock style political music, when it's really like when you're directly saying a thing and there is no room for the audience to misinterpret you. You have to say, here's the person that I'm angry at, here's some statistics.
Spoon feeding it too. Yeah.
You can't world build in that. You have to just say a direct point. And in that circumstance, I'm like, is this the right vehicle for this message?
And I think it also like limits, like as a listener, it limits the enjoyment, because you can almost feel them forcing it into a space instead of, like you said, just letting it exist in a world and let us live in that world for a moment with them. Which I think is important with art.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I'll just say just on that. Just the Run the Jewels lyric with the lead singer of Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, Zach.
The line is, he comes in, is like, one of their songs, like, look at all the slave masters posing on the dollar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's literally pointed, but not saying, like, it's not, sort of thing. Because they're all presidents and they were white.
It's just a dope way of saying it.
Yeah.
And like, dude, like, okay, you guys are like MCs. Like, when you're like, I think every MC has like this horrible thing happen to them where they're like constantly naming themselves. Like you got like your like MC name and then you got like 5 AKAs that run with it. One of my AKAs was my hip hop name and then Dalla Rocca after, because like I fucking love Zach, dude. Like,
hell yeah,
he's so good.
I don't think I've ever done that.
I don't think I've name dropped myself in a rap. I think this is because
not necessarily saying your name in a rap, but just like, I got like an MC name, but then I want to have like multiple MC names. You've never done that?
Not really.
No.
I think because
I don't think Ryan and I have the bravado. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a thing.
I think coming as the poets into the hip hop scene, we still, as much as we say like, we're trying to almost get away from the ego of hip hop, at times we need a lot more of it. Like we struggle to actually sell ourselves as rappers.
We just go up there and do our thing and like think of everyone kind of
to a fault. I'm actually saying this like to a fault. I've especially with like freestyling when I've been trying to put in for years. I've been trying to put in the time. I have been putting in the time, and I struggle with freestyling because I think my mind is so geared towards try and write a poem, try and write a message into a thing, and I'm just like, no, you're just freestyling.
You just need to spew out stuff, and it's a vibe, but it's Put
your fucking name in it, and I can't. I try to drop Rhath, and Rhath rhymes with a lot of shit, but I still can't fucking get it in.
It's a good name.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much.
No, I'm the same with freestyle.
I've been second guessing it for my entire career.
I'm the same with freestyle. I just don't. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just saying shit. I mean, I know I talk a lot of rubbish, but on stage, I'm like, I don't.
I like talking shit on a podcast.
Yeah,
that's the place I can run my fucking mouth, and I can, I can freestyle, and people have given me props for it before. So like, I'm not gonna pretend like, I can't do it at all, but rather, my brain is wired so I'm trying to say a thing, and I think a podcast is a great place to get really fucking political.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I don't know if it's been done much in podcasts.
Being political? There's a space?
Yeah, dude, but like, you know, when I was younger, I'd consider myself someone who very much enjoyed to freestyle. But I really wish I tapped into it like when I fucking choked at Slammer, because fuck me. Like, I was listening to the last one and you guys were saying on it, like, you know, in front of the band room, which has got like, the ballroom, which has got a certain amount of people.
Yeah.
Trust me, when I was on stage choking, that looked like a packed MCG, man. Like, that was daunting as hell. But that experience, like, was pretty great. But tying it in with hip hop, the only real negative experience that I had from that is now I can never watch 8 Mile. Because, like, that shit got real and traumatic quick, you know? Like, just that opening scene where he chokes, I don't even want to watch that
Can't say I've
again.
actually seen 8 Mile.
You've never seen it?
Yes, he does choke.
Yeah.
No, but see,
I'm probably the only white rapper on the planet who's not passionately worshipped 8 Mile.
No, actually, I don't think I've seen 8 Mile properly.
Yeah.
I've seen all the. No, I've seen.
I'm not an Eminem fan. I fucking can't stand his shit.
I've seen bits and pieces, but
Cheesy
I
as
remember.
fuck.
Yeah, I think of. What?
Eminem's cheesy as fuck. I don't give a shit. Like he obviously he represents like he elevated the art form during his heyday, and now
I do appreciate some of his random like.
He's fallen so far from grace.
Oh, so far from grace. Like two great albums,
of course.
And then what the hell happened? Like, you know what I mean? It's like people talk about him like he's the GOAT. It's like, are we serious? Like, you know, like. So many times I've sat around with mates and had that debate of top 5 MCs, and he's never in anyone's top 5 MCs that consider themselves people who listen to hip hop.
Yeah,
you know, and that's.
I think that people put him in there because he's done so much for it. Because I meant recently-ish. The best raps I've heard him do was when he did the diss track against Machine Gun Kelly that made him change genres of music.
That's the best. It's the most brutal.
I think it's called Kill Shot or something. And you listen to it, and it wasn't fast rap. It was slowed down a bit, and it was and he was just going, well, he just referenced everything, and then like he made a joke because I think in. Machine Gun Kelly song is talking about like go back to the treadmill, you're an old man, and so then Eminem referenced a type of treadmill in his song, and people are like, "What? You don't even know what it is," but it's like he took the time. He's taking the time to go, okay, look up what type of treadmill. So I'm like, So, but that's the only time recently that I've heard him like really. I've really enjoyed it because he's just like, well,
he's so fucking talented, obviously.
No doubt, like he's like a lyrical genius, all that sort of stuff. But his like songs are like. Sometimes they're too much, and it's just like not as fun to listen to anymore as what they used to be. Obviously, you know, everyone's got their prime, and his prime was one of the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah, he's a. I don't know. I had nothing else to say.
I think
I started and then I failed. So
I'm wary coming into these kind of topics because I want to always acknowledge I'm absolutely a guest in the hip hop scene. I don't have any real credibility. I can't like. My words should hold no weight. But if I was to run my mouth for a second, then there's a lot of fucking
run the jewels.
old MCs that fall into this trap. I find of just like the way Eminem goes about it is like he really does think he is the king, and. You can see when I saw an interview with him talking about like the Machine Gun Kelly thing, and Machine Gun Kelly was saying a bunch of shit, and he was like, nah, I gotta fucking say something. I was like, Nate, why? Why do you need to say something? Like, he went and killed him. He went and just murdered them.
That's the best takedown ever. You just change genres of music. This is the best thing.
But that ego, when you are getting older, I find really hard to watch. I find like Nas's latest albums really fucking cringy because it sounds like an old man yelling at clouds the whole fucking time.
Eminem's verse on that new Nas album is like one of the
to be honest, I haven't not touched. I heard like the
first.
first
listen to it.
It's unlistenable.
First King's one. What's it called? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
One of Nas's recent albums I listened to halfway through and I was like, I can't do this. When you start complaining about mumble rap as an old MC, it's like, dude, what do you like?
Move on.
Do you remember when you were a kid and you were like, oh, my parents don't understand me? It's like, well, rather society doesn't understand me. I'm gonna just do my own thing.
Like, and
That's what's happening now.
everything's got to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they can't sound like you.
Fuck no.
And that would be weird if they tried. They got to do their own thing, you know. And that's the
It
best
would
thing
not be
about hip hop.
successful in the slightest if they tried to sound like Nas in the fucking
But even
2023.
like dropping, talking about Mumble Rap isn't as anywhere near as big as it was. I mean, it is still there, but it's not. It had its moment for a couple of years, and then Eminem and Joy and Lucas had talking about Mumble Rap, all this stuff 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and people were doing what's his name, NT, I don't remember. He's like a YouTube rapper, but he did one. Or Death to, then other people
Death
did.
to Mumble Rappers.
Death to Mumble Rap and stuff. And I was like, cool. And I'm like, it's just going to fade out eventually. Like, it's.
And you're all like 40. And you're fighting with children, you know, like, you're fighting with these mumble rappers, and these kids are like literally like some of them are like 16 years old, blowing up on SoundCloud, and they're getting a bunch of fucking attention right now. But it's like adults getting annoyed at like a new TikTok trend. It's like it's just gonna go away in the next fucking 2 days. Chill the fuck out.
Do you know what you can do? Not listen to mumble rap.
It's just not for you, dude.
It annoyed me because I was just like, this is garbage, and I'm like, I can just press skip on Spotify. There we go. Done.
I can go onto Spotify and there's all of the old school rap. And in fact, here's a bunch of new rap that is like old school rap. There's still new shit coming out all the fucking time that still scratches that itch. I've been bumping the latest Sar Rock because you introduced me to Sar Rock recently. And that was 2022, I think. And one of the greatest hip hop records I've heard in some time. And it's fucking great. And it's just pure old school lyrical genius kind of shit. And it's so fucking good.
Or just be grown-ups and listen to country music, you know?
Just
be grown-ups. Listen to country and have a good time.
Oh, Jesus. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
Oh, you know.
There should be a point where just almost any old, probably old celebrities, but just especially old musicians just need to shut the fuck up. Especially if you were counterculture. If you were counterculture at one point and now you're not.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah.
Then shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Let the next counterculture happen. You can't continue to pass the torch.
What is the next counterculture now?
I mean, that's the other thing is like now we don't live in the age of like magazines and shit. We live in the age of niches everywhere. It's like everyone has their own little bubble. Everyone has their own forums and forums. Even that sounds like fucking old, right? There's different communities for every little thing. So there is still
everyone's got such a platform to do what they need to do.
You can find your audience. The audience is out there. So it's actually
that's a good point,
better time than ever to do all this weird shit. And something like mumble rap can exist. While at the same time, classic hip hop can also exist and new shit can be coming up and still getting the attention because there's just so many people. There's such a big audience. There's 8 billion people on the fucking planet.
Yeah,
Get locked up.
That's good. Yeah, you can't.
Pissing me off.
You can't counter a culture when there's culture is so diverse now. Yeah,
that's a good thing. With more money in ours pocket, there's more people.
Yeah, exactly.
How are your pockets, boys? Filled to the brim?
They're pretty light. Pretty light.
I love the feel of lint in the morning. You know.
Yeah.
On that note, give us money.
Yeah, subscribe to our Patreon, please. Look, that feels like a little lull there. Maybe that is. Anything left, boys? Or we can wrap it up.
We can promote our shit and we can.
Let's promote our shit. What we got coming up, Jason? Actually, why am I handing off to you? This is the one fucking chance I get to fucking do it.
Since we've got Rye,
yes.
What do we have coming up? You took too long.
August 20th. Am I right? August 20th.
What is August 20th?
Is that
You talk about Project Legacy, which is which is on August 24th. Fuck you.
24th. Shit,
shut up.
it up.
August 24th is Project Legacy at 30 Dirk because I didn't even know.
I was thinking of a different show.
You know how happy that made me?
Yeah.
Okay, you can keep going now.
I knew how to fuck up the dates. We've got our hip hop and R&B showcase coming up at 30 Dirk on August 24th. This should be out the week of. So if you're listening to this on Monday or anytime before Thursday evening, come on out. It's free, so there's no excuse. And 30 Dirk's dope. It's a great venue, so just come and hang out. Find the artists who are here to forge a legacy. You know.
we also have a poetry book still obviously for sale.
Yeah, poetry books for sale.
Good book, buy a book.
On our website, $20 plus postage.
Vibein.com.au.
Beautiful.
Link in description.
If you like what we're doing if you appreciate this kind of shit and you got a couple of extra bucks, and we understand if you don't because rent's fucked, power bills are fucked, everything's fucked. What are we going to do? Start a communist revolution? Maybe. In the meantime,
the Tower of Poetry. Yeah.
give us.
We didn't get a chance. We didn't get a chance to talk about it.
Favorite Warhammer race?
Yeah, I got to get around that tower.
Hell yeah, space communist
Sci-fi
baby.
tower, baby.
give me the Dark Elves any day.
Yeah. If you like what we do, subscribe to our Patreon. Throw us a couple of bucks every month. A cup of coffee. The price of a cup of coffee goes a long way to pay
don't use
for our
that trope,
website.
please. Anyway, music by Sixpence.
Beautiful.
And thank you, Antonio.
Thank you, guys.
Legends. All right, bye.